Did you know that if you would be living in Australia, your baby would have an 88.4% less likely chance of dying during infancy than if you would be living in Kenya? In 2017, the infant mortality rate in Australia was 4.3 deaths per 1,000 live births, while in Kenya it was 37.1 deaths per 1,000 live births. Why is there such a large difference? What factors influence these statistics? The Human Development Index, the HDI, measures the average achievements of a country in three basic dimensions, being life expectancy, education, and per capita income. Australia has a high HDI of 0.939, while Kenya's HDI is only 0.590. Kenya's educational standards are lower. There is widespread poverty. Access to healthcare is limited, and some Kenyans have no financial support or health insurance. Kenya is approximately 13 times smaller than Australia, but has almost double its population. When the physician density was measured in 2015, it was found that there were only 0.2 physicians per 1,000 people in Kenya, compared to 3.5 physicians per 1,000 people in Australia. Let us take a look at prenatal testing in general, and the differences in prenatal diagnostics between these two countries.
Prenatal diagnostics are a set of tests that are performed during pregnancy to determine whether a baby is likely to have a specific birth defect. Results can help to make the best healthcare decision before and after the child is born. They are usually performed in the first 2 trimesters and are often involve non-invasive tests such as blood tests and ultrasounds.
In the first trimester of pregnancy, it begins on the first day of the female's last period and lasts until the end of week 12. In Australia, the first and second trimester tests screen for similar conditions. However, many women have their screenings as early as possible. These tests involve 2 different measurements, a blood sample and an ultrasound. The blood samples check the levels of hormones in the blood that change during pregnancy. The ultrasound will contribute to calculating the fetus's gestational age. These test results help identify the risk of the baby having, for example, Down syndrome, trisomy 13 and trisomy 18.
In Kenya, the antenatal care program has been working to improve the health of mothers and babies. The ANC helps prepare mothers for birth and parenthood, as well as prevent, detect, alleviate, or manage health problems during pregnancy. The first ANC visits occur between the first 8 and 12 weeks of pregnancy. The purpose of the first visit is to confirm the pregnancy, classify women for basic or more specialized care, develop a birth and emergency plan, and screen, treat, and give preventative measures. Although some tests are conducted in regards to the baby, the main focus of the ANC visits is educating mothers.
Although these screening tests are available for pregnant women in Kenya, there's a large inequality of access to these tests between the wealthy and the poorer people in Kenya. Thus, these are not standard tests performed for people living in Kenya, while in Australia, standard tests are performed in each trimester. It was found that approximately 92% of women giving birth in Kenya receive some kind of prenatal care, but only 57.6% of women received the recommended 4 visits.
The second trimester of pregnancy includes the pregnancy during the 13th week up until the 28th week. In Australia, blood tests are run not only to gather information about the fetus, but also about the mother. The information of the mother includes, for example, her blood type and her rhesus factor. The information of the fetus includes abnormalities like Down syndrome and neural tube defects, which are defects of the central nervous system. An amniocentesis can also be done after week 15. In this test, a small amount of fluid is taken from the amniotic sac that surrounds the fetus and is checked for chromosomal abnormalities. However, amniocentesis is an invasive test, meaning there is a bigger chance of a miscarriage. In week 18 to 20, a special ultrasound is offered, called a morphology scan or an anomaly scan. This is a scan to look for abnormalities in the fetus's growth and development.
In Kenya, because of the lack of basic health care, most pregnant women do not have access to this screening test. Mandatory blood tests for the second trimester include screening for HIV, yellow fever, anemia, and malaria, because of the high prevalence of these diseases in the country. The third trimester of pregnancy goes from week 28th to week 40th. The guidelines according to WHO for the last trimester consist of continuing assessing maternal and fetal well-being. To do so, PIH, pregnancy-induced hypertension, anemia, multiple pregnancies, and bacterial infections need to be excluded until delivery. Australia makes the third trimester screening optional in case of good maternal and fetal health. In Kenya, screening for HIV, yellow fever, malaria, and anemia would also be necessary in the third trimester due to the incidence of these pathologies.
Prenatal screening tests are set up to detect fetal abnormalities and, if possible, to prevent illnesses during pregnancy or childbirth. The interplay of social, cultural, economic, and logistical barriers determine the accessibility to prenatal testing. Kenya has a high fertility rate and inadequate, underfunded health services compared to Australia. Income, education, access to family planning, and antenatal coverage are the main factors that determine the outcome of maternal and infant healthcare. The difference between the economic classes is more evident in Kenya, where the lower classes barely have any access to basic maternal healthcare. In Australia, the difference between the economic classes is less evident, thus the majority of the population have access to advanced maternal healthcare. Thank you.